If you want to be an effective instructional designer, you probably already know that you need to write learning objectives that are meaningful, measurable, and relevant. But when you really take the time to figure out how those learning objectives tie into the bigger picture, that's when you can take your effectiveness as an ID to the next level. Stick around to see what I mean. Hi, I'm Kristin. As a former teacher with a master's in curriculum and instruction, I know a lot about the theory and the practice behind writing a great learning objective. But when I became an instructional designer, I realized that having the skill to write a great learning objective really didn't mean a lot if you couldn't fit it into the overall goals of the organization. So, understanding how your learning objectives that you write connect to the overall goals is really important. You want to think of it almost like a puzzle. You know how every puzzle has that picture inside to show you what it looks like at the end? That's kind of the approach you want to take before you write your learning objectives. Look at that big picture to see exactly where you want to go. Let me show you how this works. Let's start with a scenario. So, we're being tasked with creating a course for customer service agents on sensitive customer information. And that's pretty broad. But before we dive a little bit deeper into that, I just want to say that we are going to take the position with this specific video that we are going to go ahead and build the course and that we do see value in it. In another video on how to solve some of the most common ID problems, Sabrina talks about all of the ways to really evaluate if something should be a course. And so if you're interested in that, go ahead and check out that video. But for the purpose of this video, we are going to take the position that we are going to build this course. So like I said, this is very, very broad. Based off of the information I'm getting, I could make learning objectives and I think the course would be around something like what counts as sensitive information and how to handle sensitive customer information. Obviously, I could dig a little bit deeper with subject matter experts, but there is some information that I think is more important to figure out before you actually dive into writing those learning objectives. So let's talk about it. I'm going to start by showing you an exemplar learning objective and the actual learning objective that's going to come out of the end of this, because I want to show you where we're going. So let's take a look at it. So here I have my final learning objective, and there's some new information here. So let's look through it. So we have customer service representatives. Well, remove sensitive customer information. Remove is a new word from a set of emails, also new word, with 100% accuracy. So if you go and look back at the original ask, there's some things that we didn't have, like we have removing customer information, set of emails. And so how did we get to that to make this learning objective more specific? Well, that's what we're going to cover with the rest of this video. So let's talk about it. The very first thing that you want to do when you get a task like this, it's very vague, is really see if you can figure out what this challenge is for the business or dive a little bit deeper into understanding it. So here's a business challenge written out here, and there's a lot. So I'm going to go through it and pick out some of the most important parts here. So we have a Q4, so quarter four, end of last year, audit reported that 18% of emails from customer service representatives to customers contained sensitive information protected by law. Yikes, creating a serious legal and financial risk for the company. So this is really, really important. And you're not always going to have a challenge worded as perfectly as this, but you will have some insights. And so now we have this audit report. There's a lot of emails that basically are showing up in this audit as there's sensitive information in it. And these customer service representatives are doing it because they're in emails to the customers. And this is a big deal. It's a legal risk. If the customer reports that they have that they're including their sensitive information in emails, they can sue them. And that's really important to really hone in on, and something was not communicated in the initial request. So it's really important to understand this larger context. So now that we have our challenge, what do we do next? We have a challenge. We know that we need to write a course, but what else can help us really get to the root of things? Well, we need to figure out what the goal is. And the goal may already be written, or we might need to write a goal specifically, but what's this business goal that we are trying to match or help employees move closer towards? And so here we have it. I'll go through and highlight the key parts. But so now our goal is that instances of sensitive customer information being shared in emails from customer service agents to customers will decrease 15% by the next Q2 audit. So this is important. So a couple things I want to break down here. So we basically want at the next audit, which is in quarter two. So let's look at timelines here, because we have last quarter four, Then we need to build this course, launch this course, and the employees need to take this course. And then by the next quarter two audit, which is sometime in the middle of the year, then we're expecting the 18% to go all the way down to 15%. And so that's a pretty big goal. And we want to make sure that we're really building courses that can help them get to that goal. And that's really, really important. So now that we've broken down that goal, we could create learning objectives, and we have a lot of information that would help us. But something that's even more effective, or can help you make even more effective learning objectives, is really truly breaking down the knowledge and skills that the employees need to have to help reach that goal. And so if they're going to be, not having all of this information in emails, if they're going to be if we want to make sure that they are not including sensitive information in emails on the next audit, what knowledge and skills do they need to have? So one thing they need to do is they need to know what counts as sensitive information. That's really important. And in terms of skills, they need to not only identify, but also be able to remove sensitive customer information from those emails, which is really, really important. So now that we have all of that, we have our, we have our challenge, we understand the goal, and we understand the knowledge and skill. You can probably see why this turns into the learning objective of, now, given a set of emails, customer service representatives will remove sensitive customer information with 100% accuracy. And so now we're setting them up to not only know what customer information is or know how to handle it, we're showing them how to remove it and setting them up for success with being able to remove it with 100% accuracy. Of course, there might be more learning objectives in your course, but I really wanted to show you how you could really align these learning objectives or get more specific with them by just asking some questions. Now that we've talked about all of that, I want to show you what all of it looks like on one screen. Here we have everything from challenge to learning objective. I personally love to be able to screenshot things and use it for later. So feel free to do that, or pause the video if you want and really analyze how it went from challenge to learning objective, so that you can do that when you write your next learning objectives. Now, there's one more thing that I want to talk about, and that is reality, because every instructional designer's job is going to be a little bit different, and there might be different realities for you. And so really what I want to do is just give you some tips for your reality to make sure that even if we don't have these perfectly written challenges and goals, we can still dive a little bit deeper. And so the truth is that you might not have all of the metrics and data at your fingertips. Most of the time, you're going to have to dive a little bit deeper to really understand some of the business goals and challenges. But there are a couple of tips that can help you. And so my first tips is to ask about the overarching goals and the challenges. Even if you don't have a specific business goal written out, understanding like what is it that we're trying to achieve? What is it that we're working towards collectively can really help. So something as simple as, what's the main challenge that we want to solve? And the next tip that I have for you is to research your audience. So as you know, it's always important to get to know your audience, but specifically with like customer service agents that we were talking about there, who are the customer service agents? Is it all of them? Is it just new agents? Really understanding your audience and the knowledge and skills they currently have can be really effective. And so something as simple as, who are they? Who's my audience? What knowledge and skills do they already have can be really valuable. The final tip I have for you is to identify those key performance indicators, or KPIs, for your course. KPIs can be great for helping you determine if your course was effective or not, but not if you don't have them or if you don't set them first. And so if KPIs aren't already set for your specific course, you can help figure that out by asking your stakeholders questions like, how will we know that we've achieved the goal of this course? Questions as simple as that can really help you get more specific information that are going to help you tailor your learning objectives to be even more effective. It's almost time for a quick quiz to test our knowledge. But before we get into that, if you are looking for more instruction on how to write good learning objectives, make sure to check out Devlin's video on how to write learning objectives with Bloom's taxonomy. It may even come in handy during later parts of this video. So with that being said, let's get into the quiz. It's 3 questions in total. So let's start with question 1. We're going to begin with a little bit of context. So you've been assigned to create an e-learning course for real estate agents on sales techniques for closing deals. So with that context, before you write your learning objectives, what questions should you ask to ensure that your course aligns with the overall business goals? So think about that for a minute. Feel free to write your answers down, and you can go ahead and pause it while you do that. Press play when you're ready for the reveal. All right, here's the reveal. So to better align our objectives with the overall business goals and challenges, we can ask, What's the main challenge that we're trying to solve? So why are we creating this course on closing deals? Are they not doing it enough? Are they not doing it correctly? As well as what are the current knowledge and skills of these agents? Are they brand new real estate agents? Have they been at the company for a while? Is it a mix of both of those? Additionally, what environment will the agents be closing deals in? It's really important for us to know what environment they're in. So if they are closing deals over the phone or doing it in person, if we know that, we can better align our learning objectives to simulate the real environment as much as possible. And then finally, how will we know if this e-learning course is successful? All of these questions are going to help us better tailor our learning objectives, but these are not the only questions that you can ask. I'm sure you thought of others too. And so if you have any that aren't on this list, I would love for you to put it in the comments down below so I can check it out and others can too. Now let's get into the next question. So for question 2, this is kind of an activity, and it should look similar to earlier when we filled out that box based off of the example that I used. And so I'm going to fill out 3 of these things for you, and you will fill out the remainder. Now, this one's cool because this is actually a classroom example, because I want you to see that anyone who writes learning objectives will benefit if they are connecting them to the overarching goals and challenges. So let's see an example of this. So you have our learning objective. Students will accurately differentiate between relevant and irrelevant information necessary for solving a given multi-step word problem. Okay, so they need to differentiate between relevant and irrelevant information that they need to solve a word problem. So the knowledge and skills that they need is, so for the knowledge, they need to understand relevant and irrelevant information that can appear in the word problems and how each of them will and won't help in solving the problems. And then for our goal, we have that by the end of the post-unit assessment, the percentage of students that accurately identify which information will help them solve the problem will increase by 30%. So now that you have all of that context, I want you to try to figure out what you think the challenge could be based off of all of this information. This might be hard, but it's a good challenge to try to take part of, because you're really testing yourself to see how everything is aligned. So go ahead and try to figure out what that challenge is. You can go ahead and pause the video while you do that, write it down if you want, but press play when you're ready to see the reveal. All right, ready for the reveal? So the challenge is that 50% of students accurately identified which information would help them solve the problem on a pre-assessment for the multi-step equations unit. Now, you might have come up with a different number, and that's okay. I'm not picturing you to predict the exact number here, but as long as you have something similar, that's important. And here we're seeing that 50% of students on this pre-assessment that a teacher gave accurately identified the information, but that's not a lot, right? This is a pre-assessment. And so that ultimate goal is that by the end of that unit, after the unit's taught, that's going to increase by 30%. So if you add that up, it's 80%. So ultimately, the teacher expects that by the end of that course unit, they're going to get an 80% on that specific skill. And there might be more objectives related to all of this, but I do want to show you individually how one learning objective can overall contribute to this problem. So good work on that. Let's go ahead and go to our final question. So this is similar. We are going to go ahead and work backwards from the way we just did this. So we're going to start with our challenge, and you're going to figure out the learning objective. So here's a new example. A recent review of company courses revealed that only 60% of courses designed by instructional designers are aligned with the current business goal. So there's our challenge. Here's our goal. We're going to increase the alignment rate of course content with business goals by 10% within 6 months. Now, that number might sound really low, but if you think about it, it's pretty realistic, because that means that the instructional designers basically have to look at all of their courses and start aligning them, which is a lot of work, as you probably know. And so this goal is pretty realistic. Now, with the knowledge and skills that we need to know how to interpret business problems to write relevant learning objectives and to align the learning objectives with the broader business goals. So that's the skills that you need. So now that you have all that information, go ahead and try to write down the learning objective. What do you think is a good learning objective that can help meet this goal and help solve this challenge that they're having? Go ahead and think about it, write it down if you want, pause this video and press play when you're ready for the reveal. All right, ready for the big reveal? So the learning objective is, given a business goal, instructional designers will accurately formulate at least 3 relevant learning objectives that specifically address the goal. Now, I'm not expecting you to have the same exact learning objective as me. There's multiple ways to write different learning objectives in different formats as well. But overall, Your learning objective should have some things that are similar. So basically, what are they going to be doing that helps them show that they can make sure that learning objectives are relevant to addressing the goal? So awesome work with this. So there you have it. Next time you have to write learning objectives, really try to approach it like you're building a puzzle. Try to see as much of that big picture as you can before you start writing your learning objectives to make sure that you not only save time writing them, but also that you're writing them as effectively as you possibly can. We explore more content like this in the bootcamp, and we're really excited to release some more hands-on opportunities in writing business goals and learning objectives when the next cohort launches at the end of this month. Stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.